Hi, I'm Wes Allen with DM Tales, and today I'm going to be talking about some of my favorite Foundry VTT modules. Let's roll it. So the first module that I love inside Foundry VTT is this tool called Dice Tray. Let me show you what that does. At the bottom of your chat window, when Dice Tray is installed and enabled, it sticks all the polyhedral dice at the bottom from D4 all the way up to percentile dice, D100, and you can click on one and it will roll it for you just by going roll. Dice Tray is so cool. You can roll multiples, so say I want to roll 2d20, but I want to apply advantage and keep the higher roll. So I'm going to click that advantage button there, and I'm going to roll, and it will only keep the higher. See? Pretty cool. Say I want to roll for some more hit points, and I have a d8 hit dice. I can roll the d8 once. My constitution modifier may be +2. Roll that, and it will give me the total, 9. So Dice Tray is a really good way to do quick dice rolls without having to know the commands, or even if you do know the commands, waiting to type them out. You just click and go. That is really cool. Next I want to look at Dice So Nice, which really is, you've seen it in action. Those are those dice that go across the screen anytime you roll. If you didn't have Dice So Nice installed, what would happen is it would just put the results inside the chat. And that's okay, but if you're not using real dice, it's at least nice to see the dice go rolling around the screen. What's cool about this is you can actually set up your own dice settings and create your own look. And this is the look that I created. It's kind of a purplish blue marble theme. And you can change your outline colors, your dice color, your edge color, the label color. So if I wanted to have like bright orange text on here, I could. I really like that. And also you can do special effects. Right now you can see I have one special effect that's set up for a D20. If a 20 is hit, you get blaze particles, which is good. Why don't we do one also, and we'll do a D20, and we'll say if a 1 critical miss, although there is no such thing, but we'll do that anyway, and we will do darkness. Something bad happens. So when we roll the D20, not that we have a good chance of getting it, if you get a 1 or a 20, you're going to see a special effect. Let me do a few rolls and see if we can get one. And there is your nice particle beam. Pretty cool. Just a nice way to celebrate that you got a critical. That's pretty cool. One of the simplest modules to install and set up is Pings. Pings does something very, very simple. When you left click on the map, it will actually show where the player is tapping. So where you would normally use a laser pointer if you were using a physical tabletop, here you can click on the screen and the DM or the other players can see where it is that you're trying to go. One of my other favorite things is known as the Token Action HUD, the heads up display. I will show you what that does. So here I have my tokens on the board, and in default Foundry, if I wanted to do something, I would double click and bring up my character sheet, go to inventory, put my mouse over the icon for whatever item I want to use or spell I want to use, and it will turn into a dice, and I will click it, and it will go through the process of rolling it. Not bad, but there's better ways to do that. If I click on my icon, up here in the corner, a heads-up display pops up, and I can look at my inventory. It will show only active tools that I'm using. So if you saw my character sheet, there's a mace there. That doesn't show up. Access to all my spells. I can go to my features and read the write-up for those. I can do checks on all my skills. It will show me which ones I'm also proficient in, and saves on all my abilities, and checks. I can change my conditions, and in utilities I can do things like roll initiative, do a long or a short rest, apply an inspiration. So these are really kind of cool things, just a neat way to get through some of the deeper settings without having to keep opening up windows and closing them again. Combat Utility Belt is another favorite tool of mine. It's kind of fun. It has this nice little old green screen monitor look. You click on it and you can activate little things like Award XP, Concentrator that will tell people to do concentration checks anytime they take damage when they have a concentration spell up. You can hide the name. It's really kind of cool. One of my favorite is Trigger and Enhanced Conditions. Those are some of my favorite tools that you can use inside the Combat Utility Belt. Condition Lab allows you to set your own icons for your conditions and apply triggers for them. And that's very cool. And I actually created 2 conditions using Trigger and applied them in the Condition Lab so that when your HP value goes to 0, you become dead. And when your HP value is above 0, you're not dead. Although in 5e it's technically unconscious, but it's in combat, we're just going to call it dead. This saves a lot of time when we go through combat. Somebody gets brought down to 0 hit points. It marks them dead on the screen so people know that they are down. I don't have to do any extra clicks. And also in the combat tracker, it marks them as dead and it skips over them in combat. That's really helpful. I find the GM screen is really helpful, although I'm not using it as much in 5e yet as I am in my basic fantasy install, which is using the sandbox system. GM screen basically throws a GM screen into Foundry. It hides it behind this little icon here. Only the GM can see it. And you can bring it up, and these are journal entries that you can throw in here, or you could actually throw monster stats in there as well. You can really just put about anything in there. And your tables and your tools and your roll tables, they all can go in there, and that's pretty cool. You can even roll from here if you want. See the little dice icon? These are roll tables that I made. And it will roll, and it says 5. You belch, but otherwise feel no different. It's really nice. In my basic fantasy role-playing game install, I have a lot of the rules for like monster interactions in there, stuff that I don't want to have to keep flipping through the book for to find. And I'd throw them in there, and it's a real quick reference for me. Pretty cool. Midi QOL, or quality of life, is very nice. It lowers some of your clicks that you need to do actions. In default Foundry, when you click on an icon to do an attack or cast a spell, it's going to ask you, do you want to do this a normal attack, adversarial attack? It goes through so many things. And then you have to click to roll. It's going to ask you if you want to attack with advantage or disadvantage. And it's nice for clarity, but unfortunately you just have to keep doing it over and over again. It's a lot of clicks that add up over time. With Midi Quality of Life, you can actually have it set to where if you target an icon, it will automatically tell you, if you have it configured, that a roll will hit that person's AC, so I don't have to go and track this person's AC inside the combat tracker or open up their character sheet. It will just put it in the chat. And I can show you that now. So he is targeted. Saren has got his sword out, and he's going to attack. And it hits Veteran 2 down there, which is very nice. I don't have it automated for damage because I find that people like to roll dice and press that button. Even if they don't have real dice in front of them, it makes them feel a little bit more engaged into the combat. But you can actually have it automate rolling damage and applying it to targeted tokens. So quality of life is just a way of speeding things up and getting things out of the way. Not your turn is very helpful because players sometimes like to sneak around inside combat when it is not their turn, and if the DM is not paying attention, it can be a little bit jarring. And so we're going to put all these tokens in combat. Let's roll initiative for them quick. So Guard 2 is going first. We're going to begin combat here. And let's see who Guard 2 is, because I don't have their names over there. Guard 1, Guard 2. So Guard 2's turn, so he can move. And it's not going to say anything. If I move, see, it's not your turn. Now, if a player did that, what would happen is it would throw up a box on my screen saying, are you going to allow this move or not? And sometimes I'll be like, yeah, okay, you forgot to do that, or I skipped over your turn, go right ahead. And other times I'm like, it's not your turn, and it will automatically bounce the person back to the square that they were in. Just a nice way of keeping folks honest during combat. Very, very helpful. Going to show this window off for the next one, but if you are on a laptop, you want laptop form fix installed because, well, it keeps the buttons at the bottom of the form so that when you're scrolling, you don't have to scroll all the way down through a window in order to find the buttons to, activate changes and whatnot. And that is really, really helpful. Also helpful is Tidy UI game settings. And essentially that does what you see here on this screen. It takes all the game settings, and instead of having it be one endlessly scrolling list that you have to find all your settings in, it puts the rules in nice collapsible icons where you click and then bring the stuff out. So much nicer to scroll through and easier to browse. And Universal Battle Map Importer is the last one I'm going to talk about today. This thing is indispensable. I use Dungeon Draft to create my encounter maps, and Dungeon Draft is great because I can create things like walls and light sources and doors and windows and set all the different statuses for them. And if I have them configured correctly, I can then export to a universal battle map format and use this module to bring in that scene, and it will keep all the windows and all the doors and all the light sources and throw them onto the map, and I don't have to do anything. That is so helpful. It saves so much time instead of having to bring in a static image on the map and then draw all the walls on my own. Really, I highly recommend.
So Foundry on its own is a pretty good virtual tabletop, but the plugins you can get, the modules that you can use to extend the features, they really make Foundry a great way to experience a tabletop role-playing game when you're not really all able to be around the same physical table. Until next week, happy playing, everyone.